Hello everybody and welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing's Toyota GR86 Cup here. Season number 1 and we are here for round number 2. We had an absolutely fantastic start to the championship 2 weeks ago at Okayama. We saw fighting all the way through each of the 3 races and we now have another 3 lined up here today. It is going to be a wet and wild one, that is for sure. It has been raining on and off throughout this practice session. You can see there the circuit's extremely wet and our drivers having to get to grips with those. Wet tyres have been the only tyre choice over the past hour of practice and I expect it to be very similar into qualifying, if not even into the race itself, and we expect that to be the case all the way through the evening as well for all 3 of the races. And with that being said, we've got 2 quicker races coming your way of about 15 minutes in length. It then heads across to our longer, about 25-minute race. And with our drivers getting out there for practice, they'll be preparing for a qualifying session, open qualifying session, of course, but all of them will be heading down onto the track at the same time to try and put in the best laps possible. Before we look too much at today, though, let's have a little bit of a look at the season ahead because we do have a fantastic event lined up for us across the course of this season. We headed out to Okayama 2 weeks ago, and in 2 weeks' time, we head across to Mugello for the short layout of that circuit. It should be a very interesting one. Indeed, it's a quick, it's a wild track and good braking points, good overtaking, of course, all the way along the front straight. You're going to have a lot of tow. Talking about tow, we're going to Hockenheim Ring. We're doing the outer layout there. It is going to be tow galore around the Hockenheim Ring, pulling you on to the major braking zones. We then go into another circuit that has some good straights, but some wild chicanes to add in there. Zolder on April 28th. We then head into May. For round number 6, we go to Willow Springs and then across to Interlagos for the 7th round of competition on May 26th. It is going to be an interesting season, there is no doubt about that. As we come into the second event of the season, we aren't able to get you our fully up-to-date championship standings just yet, but we will keep an eye on those and hopefully have them for you in the 3rd broadcast of the season in 2 weeks' time. Of course, we run in alternate weeks to the fabulous NXTCC, and if you haven't seen that in a while, it's because we have taken a bit of a delay with the update in the touring cars, of course, which means that the endurance round Bathurst will be coming to your screens next Tuesday. So if you haven't done so already, if you're watching over on the YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching over on the Facebook, hit the like button, the follow button over there to make sure that you get notified when we do go live for the next round of the NXTCC and you don't miss it with Paul Walsh, of course. But we are going to look at tonight's event in these fabulous Toyota GR86s, updated on the iRacing service, of course, at the start of the 2026 season. And they have become a popular car amongst newbies and familiars to iRacing as they get out there today. And we welcome you, of course, into the commentary box here for the first time tonight. And we've got a nice grid of drivers preparing to take themselves away for this one. Familiar names going fast in this practice session at the moment. You've got Jamie Dory towards the front that you'd expect. Ben Oucher as well. Jack Pittas is up there. You see familiar names throughout the field as well. You've got Matt Gatter in here, William Guthrie, you've got Phil McDougall, names that you can see throughout the various next-gen leagues, and no different here tonight as well. And this is a very wet-looking Portland circuit. There is no doubt about that. It is kicking up tons of spray right now, and our drivers have got to get used to that. Of course, we ran a pre-season event on these cars at Nürburgring. It was nice and dry for them there. We had some good racing. We had a dry Okayama round 2 weeks ago, And again, it was great racing. This is the first time we're going to see these cars in these wet conditions. It is not a torrential downpour, but it is slick out there. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of racing we're going to get going. Now, I've been in this practice session, watching the drivers head around for the past 50 minutes or so. And what I've noticed is the racing is just as close as always, and there are some really good opportunities around this circuit as well. If you think there's a first chicane that we've got going on right at the end of the drag strip, you've got to slam on your brakes for that one. You can find your way up the inside, there is no doubt about that. If you're stuck on the outside though, you've got the opportunity on the switch across through the turn 2 as you get into the chicane. It's a really tight move to the left hand side, and if you can get your car on the outside, you could find your way bumping over that curb. But these Toyotas, they can take that curb quite nicely. You can bounce over it, still feel rather settled. And then you've obviously got that long right-hander at the start as well. Side-by-side action is going to be guaranteed through there. As you try to keep it to the inside, you've got the tighter line and try to get it planted before you next turn to the left. Of course, you then got the back straight as well. Get as close to the wall as possible to maximize your lap time, but you're going to want to move to the left a little bit if you're going to want to defend your position. Of course, we can see side-by-side action going into the final chicane, but it is a quick chicane. If drivers try to do that, we could see accidents, cars going off, major issues for each and every one of our drivers. So I think we're going to see a lot of cars backing out into that chicane, either the overtaking car or the car that's defending, not wanting to go side by side. That is until the last lap or two, when we might see cars just risk it that little bit more and go for that position right towards the very end. It's going to be interesting to see what our drivers are going to do about their overtaking around a circuit like this, where there is opportunity to do so. Of course, there's a lot of opportunity to go off the track, make mistakes, and go around. I think the last time that I raced at Portland, and it didn't go well for me. It is a tricky circuit to perfect, even though it is quite an easy circuit to learn. So let's see what our drivers are able to do in the upcoming qualifying session. Of course, the qualifying session is going to set the grid for the first race of the day. 11 laps will be coming your way for the first race of the day. That will be about 15 minutes of racing, and that will all be set by the qualifier. Race number 2, we'll see the top 15 invert, and in this case today, that will be the whole field inverted, which will be a very interesting concept in race number 2, where we'll have another 11 laps of racing. Race number 3, we'll also see the full reverse inverted grid again from the results of race number 2, but we will also see an increase in laps in that one. So if you are finding your way at the back, you have a little bit longer to work your way back up to the front. It is going to be interesting today, though, how this is all going to go for our drivers, and I am interested to see which ones are going to rise to the very top of the order and become cream of the crop. Surprisingly, it's a name that is not familiar to the top of our timing screens in these side leagues, I would call it. It's definitely a big league, of course, for the amount of drivers that do register through these events, such as the Mazdas, the Legends, the Toyotas, of course, but it is definitely one of the smaller leagues on NXTGEN. But with that being said, Lee Horn doesn't often find himself towards the front of these leagues. However, he is right now the fastest in this practice session, sitting about a quarter of a tenth away from ahead of Jamie Dory, I should say. Ben Oucher's a little bit further back as well. Your top 3 separated by 61/100ths of a second in this practice session. That's showing you how tight it is going to be once we get into qualifying. Now, of course, these cars, they are very, very fun to drive. There is no doubt about that. But they do require a little bit of finesse to find your way to the very front in a qualifying session. In a race session, you just got to place your car in the perfect position to make your way through, and you are going to find your way through with that. So let's see how it all turns out. But as we get this practice session continuing here with 5 minutes left on the board in this practice session, you can see there the gaps between each of our drivers, and Jamie Dory, Lee Horn, Ben Oucher, they're the 3 at the top with Dory in the middle. It then goes down to Jack Pittas just behind in 4th position, and he's been putting some laps out there, but as we cut across to him, he has found his way off of the circuit, and that is going to be a position that he doesn't want to find himself in when it comes to qualifying or the race. The reason we have jumped across to Jack Pittas here today is because he's made me chuckle a little bit on the front of his banner, and he's saying hi to me as he comes up towards the car. So hello there to Jack Pittas as well, running around 4th position at the moment in his machine, and we prepare for qualifying with about 4 minutes left to go in this session. Drivers will just try and put in the best lap time that they possibly can when it comes across into that qualifying session, but starting towards the rear of the field isn't going to do too much damage in a series like this, where the cars can just allow you to move your way up. It is close combat racing. It is not a fragile car. It's not a car that is affected a lot by minor bits of contact. And of course, motorsport is not a contact sport, but if you are going to get any contact in, this is the closest you are going to find yourself. There is no doubt about that. So Pittas coming through the first chicane there and up towards turn number 4 as he continues around his laps of the circuit. And as that being said, we do actually go up to 16 cars in this session, which means in race number 2, at the moment, 1 driver is going to be missing out on the invert. So as long as you don't finish last here, you can find your way to the very front of the field in race number 2 with that invert. So you can have a bad evening, that's for sure, but try to get it out of the way quickly and don't have the worst evening from all of our drivers. As we head along the back straight here, we are watching Alan McCain as he comes through this really quick chicane that I was talking about earlier, where I do think there is going to be opportunity to run side by side there, but I think a lot of drivers are going to want to, a little bit challenging, I think, to say the least, to go side by side through there. I think it will make it extremely difficult for drivers to get through cleanly without issue. Right then, we come up towards the first chicane once again for Alan McCain, and he is trying to just get to grips of this Toyota in this practice session that we have about 2 minutes left of, and then we will prepare ourselves for qualifying, which will be coming shortly after that one. And it is going to be an interesting qualifying. Definitely how close Horndori and Ultra are at the top right now, of course, and with it being an open qualifying, it means all of our drivers will be heading down onto the track. It's not like your average iRacing session where you get your own track to go out on for a few laps and you don't have to worry about traffic or anyone else on circuit. In these open qualifying sessions, you do. With all of our drivers heading out there together, and often what we see is a lot of cars going out at the very beginning of the session, and therefore you get a bit of a traffic jam as they try to sort themselves out, find themselves into a good position, especially on a circuit that requires a good amount of draft, such as this one. You want to find yourself nearer the front so you don't have too many cars in your way. However, you also don't want to find yourself too close to the car in front, but they'll be hindering you. You also don't want to find yourself at the very front of the field, because that will mean that you are giving everyone else a tow, and you aren't getting any benefit yourself, as we just have a little bit of see how else out Jackin at the moment. Jamie Dory is out there in this session, and he is pulling away around Lee Horn. So Horn is getting the benefit of the tow right now, which helps in the hot lapping situation. What it also means in these race situations, if the cars do find themselves a little bit apart, the tow can be a really good factor of bringing you back together again, which means it's not very often you will see your race leader pulling away from the rest of the field and getting itself clear. Right then, practice is about to end, which means qualifying is about to begin. So strap yourselves in, just like our drivers have behind their virtual racing machines, and get ready, because they are going to be trying to push as hard as they can in the upcoming qualifying session to find themselves towards the front of the field by the end of the next 15 minutes. As we do get ourselves out there then, and qualifying will begin with our time on the board, and we will see who is the first ones to make their way out, and it will be Nick Clibbins, the first man who makes his way out here in qualifying to get his lap time sorted, and he will be leading the train of drivers behind that are all filing out slowly out of pit lane and up through the first chicane. And you can see how many are just trying to keep close to the cars in front of them. They don't want to lose touch, but I'm sure we'll see those gaps increasing between drivers as the session goes on. Now Horn went a little bit wide down already. He's just lost out on track to Jack Pittas, who does a little bit of a drift there through turn number 4. But just losing out, there is a little bit of racing that goes on in these sessions, because losing out on track position and being second in queue, it means you don't have to worry about this, because now Lee Horn has got Pittas ahead of him, who's sliding around the circuit. That's going to hinder his lap time, and he's got Dory behind, who's going to be trying to close up, and none of them are going to want to hinder their lap times. How is this going to go? What are they going to do here as Dory looks to go past Lee Horn around the back straight here? Is he going to go for the overtake? Is Horn going to pack out? Yes, which means Horn falls down to 4th in line here, and he's sticking right to the rear end of Jamie Dory. Now, we saw how close they were. Dory, I'm sure, will be pulling Horn along, and Horn will be happy to have him there again with how he was going in practice as well. Let's see if Lee Horn is able to replicate his practice lap time here in qualifying as we head up towards turn number 1. Horn gets onto the brakes, but you can see how close he is already to the rear end of Dory and Pittas. And if he's finding time in the corners, of course, he's going to be losing time being stuck behind these drivers. So even if he's running faster, as Pittas goes sideways again and again, Dory goes to the inside. Horn stays there as well. That's one car out of the way for Horn. Dory now getting a very distant tow from Nick Clibbins, but not as much of a tow as he was behind Pittas. Up towards the back straight now. This and the main straight, obviously the two sections you really want to be following a car. So Horn is going to have the benefit here, but like I said, along the corner, well, through the corners, he's going to be at a disadvantage, especially how close he got to the rear end of Dory there. It's going to hinder him a little bit, but we head up now towards the chicane with Lee Horn chasing down Jamie Dory in this qualifying session. We will get first lap times on the board in a moment. Clibbins is leading this train of cars. Clibbins has a big side though, and he just about gets out of the way, which means Dory will be the first man across the line with a lap time in this session. Lee Horn will be the second as they come up towards the timing line. That was a big old slide there from Clibbins through the chicane. You can see just how much these wet conditions can unsettle the car, especially on the rear end here. We'll see times pop up on the left, and as it stands, Dory is faster than Horn. Oucher went provisional pole, but Adam Wilson-Weir there moved even faster, and you can see the gap that Wilson-Weir has here ahead of him. He's following along behind. I'm trying to figure who this is now that he's following around behind. Is Hadrian Hernandez, and Hernandez goes off at turn number 3. But that distant tow from Wilson-Weir there meant that he was getting the benefit along the straight, but he wasn't getting slowed down through the corners, which is, I think, excellent for someone who's trying to find themselves onto pole position. And as you can see, it's given him a 3/10 advantage over the cars that were in a very close battle altogether there as we come out of the turn number 6 and onto the back straight here. Up towards the chicane. Wilson-Weir now not getting that tow with Hernandez going off of the circuit. But it is definitely tow towards the front of this one. This is Ben Oucher in the full tilt machine chasing down the number 28 machine of Jack Pittas in the Type 2 machine. They come out on the final turn. Of course, running under Team Ben. There's no teams championship in this league. But we come up towards the timing line here and see what drivers are able to put in. Oucher moves even to the right-hand side there to maximise his lap time, and he looks up to the inside of Pittas, and Oucher does maximise his lap time. It is good enough for pole position, and Pittas has to back out of that lap time. And he cuts the chicane in doing so as well to get out of the way. His lap time would have already been ruined at turn number 1, so jumping out the way, not getting involved in the accident is exactly the right thing to do there. Who was that running off at turn number 1? I think that might have been Guthrie. It was William Guthrie who was running off the circuit there, really kicking out the rear end of the circuit, the car here. It is managing to be a really tricky car to drive in these conditions, and I think we're going to see a number of cars sliding around, but I do think that's going to create quite a close and interesting fight as Ben Oucher has gone around there. As I have a look over at our chats and over on the YouTube there and see Dan cheering for Gassed Up, and of course Gassed Up there being raced by two different teams, two different drivers as far as I can see, which is Adrian Hernandez out there, and of course Matt Gatta as well. And then we got Z over on the YouTube as well. Let's Go Type 2, and of course you've got a number of Type 2 cars out there as well, along Adam Wilson-Weir. You've got Jack Pittas out there as well, putting in some lap times. You've also got Joshua Downing getting in there as well, and as far as I can see looking down, I believe that is it inside the Type 2 banner as well. And if you are watching over on the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitch, no matter where you are, pop a comment and I will say hello to you and say who you're supporting out there tonight. We've got a nice set of drivers preparing to go racing for round number 2 here. We will get points up in the championship at the start of next week, hopefully, so we can talk through where drivers are stood in the running order. 7 rounds in this championship, of course, and this is the second of them. We went for the first round 2 weeks ago at Okayama, and an interesting set of races around Okayama, there is no doubt about that one, as I'm sure we're going to see another very tight fight in all 3 of the upcoming races that our drivers will be heading out for. Matt Gatta is the only driver out there right now that has not put in a qualifying lap, but he will be trying to do so as he comes up towards the timing line. It's a very close running from Ben Oucher and William Guthrie, 2 drivers that were not towards the top in practice, but qualifying is where it counts. And right now, Oucher and Guthrie are the ones who have found themselves 3/10 clear of the rest of your field right now. And as we look at that, Matt Gatta does put in another lap time. Again, an invalid lap time as he's gone off. Let's have a look to see if Gatta is able to go for a lap time here on his 4th time of asking. Coming through the start of the lap, he turns it to the right-hand side. He kicks out the rear end there, and he gets off the track yet again. He is struggling to get to grips on these wet conditions. Of course, catching the curbing can send your car straight around, spinning itself, so Gatta having to just get back out there and figure it out on the fly. And figuring out on the fly right now is Nick Clibbins, because he has gone provisional pole position. That was contact with Ben Oucher, though, down at turn number 1, and Clibbins will have to either well, he might just continue around in this session. He might come down pit lane to get himself repaired after that one. The damage doesn't do too much, but Ben Oucher will have to get himself down pit lane and his car repaired here. He has got a meatball flag, broken front left suspension in the full tilt machine. Even if he tried to put more laps in, first of all, they're not going to be quicker when you've got suspension pointing the wrong way, but with the way that black flags work, it means all of the following laps are going to be invalidated until Ben Oucher pits. So he will come down pit lane at the end of this one. You can see that front left tyre pointing out to the left when it shouldn't be, and we'll see that, I think, as we come through the right-hander here. It's just not turning at all. Yeah, still pointing to the left, so Oucher will make a big old sweep to the right-hand side there and gets himself into pit lane to sort that out. Phil McDougall takes a very wide line into the final turn, gets himself back on in the bolt machine, and will go for it again with 5 minutes left in this qualifying session. It is Nick Clibbins who is on provisional pole position. He decides to stay out even with the front end damage that he picked up with Ben Oucher. And let's see what happened here in the qualifying session. It's not often we get accidents in qualifying. Oucher's behind the wheel of Clibbins. Clibbins has a big slide. He goes around, and there is the collection by Ben Oucher. I think both of them will just be thinking, I am glad that happened in qualifying and not in either of the, well, any of the races. 3 of them coming up, of course. 2 11-lap race and then a longer race, which, if I am going to do my mathematics like I like to do on the top of my head and what we've seen before, I'm going to say 17 laps of asking in the 3rd and final race of the day. In fact, I will see if I can get that one confirmed and see what number we do have up for the 3rd race of the day as we watch Jack Pittas here coming to finish his lap time. He's currently quick enough for 8th position in this one as he comes to the final turn on the circuit. And up towards the timing line he goes. And they are working together as teammates here, as we normally see within these sessions. Try to get yourself a tow, try to help each other out and find your way up as far as you can. And right now that is exactly what is going on in this one as we come towards the first chicane. And there's a bit of a wobble there in the background, and Pittas left on his own here. It does mean that he's not getting the tow ahead of him to pull him ahead. It means he's also not dragging anyone on behind at the moment, and I can confirm it is 17 laps as Pittas goes for a spin down at turn number 3, and he backs out of it as well before he accelerates on, and there's another spin, and around they go. We've seen a couple of slides there. It does look to be drying up around here right now, as we do see a lap time on the board for Matt Gatter. The back end of the lap here, look, it's very wet. It is wet out there towards the back, but as we go and look to Kent, up towards turn number 4 here, it's wet, but there's no major puddles. The spray gets a little bit less there. Like, you've still got the puddles elsewhere on the circuit. This end of the circuit, the chicane and up through turn number 3 there, there's just not the puddles. And I think it is drying up here, and if we don't see rain, we could potentially see a dry enough track towards the end of race number 1 for dries. And if there's a safety car, could we see drivers, well, will we see drivers start on dries is the question. Would we see drivers decide it is time for dries in a race? Now, Nigel Stock is already asking that question, because Nigel Stock here is out there on the dry compounder tyres. He is thinking, how am I going to benefit most here? I'm not feeling like the fastest in the wets. Let's put on the dry compound. And as you can see, they're not looking the fastest right now. But if they're controllable and there's no rain coming up in the race, could we see a potential start on dries work out in the long run? Now, when you get sessions like this, as Stock does find himself sideways, when you get sessions like this way, it's normally always best to start on the wet tyres, and if you need to, come down to pit for dries. The other way, however, works quite well, as Wilson Weir actually does exactly the same as Stock does, but Wilson Weir is on the wet tyres, just showing it is tricky out there no matter what tyre you're on. But I'm thinking, do you know what, if it was raining and then drying up, starting on the wets is the best call and going on to dries. If it was dry and expecting to rain, starting on the wets could be the better call, because the wets, they aren't fast, but you have grip on the dry surface in the wet tyres. Not much, and they aren't fast, but you have a lot more grip than slicks do on the wet. So I think this direction, we're going to see a lot of drivers, if not all drivers, go onto wets for race number 1, unless it substantially dries up between the 2 sessions. That's what's going to be interesting to see once this session is over and we get onto the grid, is seeing what the drivers are going to do for their tyres. What is the surface going to be like? Because if it's like it is right now, it's slick, it's greasy, it's wet with puddles, the wets are going to be the better call. Phil McDougall puts in an astonishing lap time there. After being at the back of the field pretty much the whole session, Phil McDougall just puts it into provisional pole position by 0.02 of a second clear of Nick Clibbins. Phil McDougall has come out at the very end of this session Can he take a pole position here? He will certainly be hoping so, as we've got just 5 seconds left on the timing. It means that everyone will be finishing the lap that they are currently on as we come up towards the end of the lap here. And with that being said, it is Lee Horn who will be first across the timing line in qualifying, but he does run off the circuit there and will invalidate his lap time as he comes around. Then we have Lewis Mason coming around the final hairpin and up towards the timing line. Lewis Mason, can he improve on 13th position here? He's less than a second off of Phil McDougall. Can he go even higher here? If he finds about a hundredth of a second, he could, and he does. He goes past Ross Gillette there in 13th position, and Jack Pittas next across the line. Provisional pole position right towards the end of the session here, and it means it looks like he will take pole unless Wilson Weir can beat him, but Wilson Weir was looking slow along the line there. Jack Pittas takes pole position for race number 2 on his final lap of asking here in qualifying, which means we can get our grid set for race number 1. Jack Pittas will start this one on pole position ahead of Phil McDougall. Nick Clibbins will start in 3rd, and Ben Oucher from 4th on the grid. 5th will be for Adam Wilson Weir, and William Guthrie will start this one in 6th position. 7th will be for Jamie Dory. Lee Horn will start in 8th place with Ross Gillette in 9th. Joshua Downing in 10th position. Alan McCain takes home 11th. And Mark Kent will start this one in 12th position. And the back of your field will be Lewis Mason, top 13, separated by just a second. Adrian Hernandez will start 14th ahead of Matt Gatta, and Nigel Stock on 16th. Gatta took some time to be able to get in a valid lap, but he was able to do so in the end, and he got a couple of valid laps in to place himself towards the back of the field with that. And with that being said, we go back to the beginning. With that being said, we prepare ourselves for race number 1. 3 races coming up here today in the Toyota GR86s. Race number 1 and race number 2 are going to be 11 laps long. The 3rd and final race is going to be 17 laps. And as we load into the race session there, it is definitely going to be wet compound of tyres on our car. There were a lot of puddles that just got themselves involved there. That being said, Nigel Stock for a moment came out on dries. He's decided to go back in, and I expect wets to go on his machine as well. And I do believe that we are going to get wets across the entire field here. I think trying to put on dry compound tyres in these conditions, it doesn't look it, but apart from the puddles, but it is extremely slick out there. The moment these cars get away, we will be seeing the spray kicking up into the air, so they will certainly be wanting to go onto the wet tyres. And at the moment, with everyone who has gridded, they have all gone on to wet tyres. We're just waiting for Jamie Dory and Alan McCain to find their way down onto the onto the grid, and then we will get away for 11 laps of asking around the Portland circuit. So that's going to be about 15 minutes of running. Slightly longer because of the wet conditions, means that they're not fully up to the same pace as our laps are when we sort out lap counts. Right then, everyone lining up at the front row is Jack Pittas, Phil McDougall coming out of the woodworks late for them to go onto the front row of the grid. And Pittas, of course, his last lap of asking, places him on pole in his Hi Joseph Type 2 machine. 11 laps on the board here. We're prepared to go racing for race number 1. We are green and away, and we saw that massive jump start from Nick Clibbins. That 100% would have been when the lights went up. Clibbins would have dived for it. He gets out of the way. We see a car around in the background on the start of this one as we head up towards turn number 2 into the chicane, and that was William Guthrie also around out of the chicane. They've sorted themselves out at the back. It was Nigel Stock and Matt Gatta who found themselves all which ways, and Stock has got a meatball flag off of the start finish line. which is an interesting place to get one. I don't think I've seen one so early before, as Jamie Dory just finds himself tumbling down the field here. He has gone on to dry tyres. Jamie Dory is the only man out there that has decided to risk dry compounder tyres here, which is why he is falling down the order. It is wet, wet, wet out there right now, which means Dory just finds himself tumbling on the opening lap of this race. Even Nick Clibbins, who pulled over to the side on the start line after his jump start, is about to overtake him. Ben Oucher has got up to third from fourth on the grid, and that was McDougall going slightly deep into the chicane. Oucher looks to the inside there, almost trying to scare McDougall into running a little bit deep, but Oucher now all over the rear end has great opportunity to try and get to the inside of Phil McDougall up towards turn number one. He's getting that toe right now as he goes across the timing line. Gata has gone around at the chicane. We go into turn number one with Oucher to the inside of Phil McDougall. He gets it slowed down as well. A big hit with the curb, but like I said earlier in the practice session, you can run over the curbs in this car quite easily as the rest of the field come on through, and you can see a lot of cars down pit lane in the background. Nigel Stock, Nick Clibbins are both down pit lane. Matt Gatter down pit lane as well in that one, as we have a little bit look further down the field here, and we can see Joshua Downing trying to chase down Hernandez here for 10th position. He goes to the outside, but that's onto the wet line for Downing. It's a big drift. He keeps it together though, a lot of time lost, but Downing faces the correct direction here as we come along the back straight once more. Oucher will be trying to catch up to Pittas in their fight, but with that being said, I think we should have a little bit of a look onto the start of this race whilst they are heading around, and we're going to see what happens to Nigel Stock here. Wow, it was a big spin there from Matt Gatter off of the line, and Stock was just collected in it as that was all going on. And we need to go live because Jack Pittas has fallen to 7th. What just happened to Pittas here? And it looks like it might have collected Oucher in it as well. It certainly did. Oucher had to go to the left and wait slow, which means that Adam Wilson-Weir has benefited from all of this. Oucher now to the inside of McDougall. It's side by side out to the first chicane. Oucher stuck on the outside. A little bit of a wobble there from McDougall on the inside line, but he is going to hold it to the inside of turn number 4. Oucher's going to try and keep it to the outside. There's just not enough speed to keep it on that wider line through such a fast corner, but Adam Wilson-Weir replaces his teammate Jack Pittas at the front of the field here and is now running in first position on the third. How are we already on lap number 3? This is going quick. The third lap of asking. Ross Gillette gets up the inside of Lee Horn there. Ross up 4 positions in this race, not as much as Alan McCain though, who have moved up 7. The dry tyres not working out for Jamie Dory. He's had an incident in the background, and now Ben Oucher looks to get back past Phil McDougall again. This time to the inside chicane. He backs out of it. McDougall goes defensive, and they will remain in line here. But you can see as they go to the inside how much water they're kicking up, and Wilson-Weir follows his teammate and spins, going up to the final corner earlier than Pittas did, but Wilson-Weir finds himself off the circuit as well and recovering. That moves Oucher back into second place. It moves Phil McDougall into first, and it moves the man who started 11th place into P number 3. Alan McCain here doing a great job in the race session, and this is where the points are scored, so it's where you want to find yourself up the order. We head up towards turn number 3 now, with Oucher chasing Phil McDougall at the front of this field. It's a train of cars behind as well, with McCain, Gillette, Horn chasing behind. Pittas about 1.2 seconds off. You wouldn't discount him from getting back up towards the front of the field before the end of this one, as we've got about 7 laps to go. Oucher goes to the outside of McDougall. Can he hold it there? He is. You really had to carry a lot of speed to get it around the outside. But Ben Oucher manages to do it around the outside of Phil McDougall and moves into the lead, which he was looking for earlier before Pittas spun in front of him and caused him to bail onto the grass. And it means that Ben Oucher now finds his way to the front of the field. McDougall, though, not looking to give up that easily. I'm sure we will see him back as Oucher runs a little bit wider on there. We'll go have a little look at what happened to William Guthrie on the opening lap of asking. Was it contact? It was contact with Jamie Dory. This saw Guthrie go around. Matt Gatter then had the incident at the chicane that I mentioned as well. That's how he went around in the background. Mark Kent then had an issue himself. This is on the second lap. He spun. Jamie Dory also had issues. He's on the dry tyres, remember. Dory really struggling on the dries. And then we saw, obviously, Pittas's spin as well, as Dory has continued to go around. In fact, I've seen his name come up about 3 more times. This happened at turn number 1. It was Hernandez and Mason. Contact there as Hernandez touches the inside of Mason. It gets to a slot there to make sure that Mason maintains position, and Lewis Mason is in 11th with Hernandez in 12th, so they've both fallen down the order, but Mason does stay ahead of Hernandez after that one back up to the podium positions here, and it is Alan McCain chasing down Phil McDougall, and who is chasing down Ben Oucher at the very front, with Ross slightly dropping off the rear end here, definitely not discounting them in this one. That discounts Jamie Dory though, doesn't it? He risked the dry tyres, and Dory is still out there running those dry tyres, but he is really, really struggling in it, and these conditions now are not going to be helping him. Alan McCain has a great opportunity to get past Phil McDougall out of the final turn. He had the speed. Will he defend the line to the inside? He certainly will. And just like we saw Oucher move through earlier, McCain does the same thing, but he goes wide, and now that's invited McDougall back into this one. McDougall is going to be stuck on the outside line. However, it's a hard line to keep it in, but he is going to keep it in. They are rubbing wheels there. And it's sideways for McCain. He holds it. But Phil McDougall maintains second with that. McCain will go back through for it as Lee Horn moves up into 4th position. And that's to the outside now for McCain. And it's a little bit of a nudge on the rear back panel there, and McCain will go through back into 2nd position. This is a ding-dong battle for P number 2, but because it's going on, it means that Ben Oucher is just finding himself pulling away from the rest of the field. 2.3 seconds clear in this one right now as we get through the chicane. The rain falling yet again there. I think the rain's only falling in part of the circuit, you know, because it seems to only be coming on when we're in certain camera angles. I was noticing in practice as well. I don't know if it's only raining in certain parts of the circuit or whether it's just that intermittent. We come up towards the timing line here, watching this train of drivers that drops down to P number 6, and I said don't discount Pittas from getting back up to the lead fight. Well, this is what you do for not discounting him, and that's a spin in front for the 2-1-2 of Alan McCain, and it was, who was that getting caught up in that one with him? Was it Adam Wilson-Weir? Was it? I think it was Adam Wilson-Weir getting caught up in that one, because somehow he had pulled himself back into this. No, it was Lee Horn. It was Lee Horn who had got himself back up into that one. Wilson-Weir was just slow through the next corner because he had to run a slightly wider line. That being said, Wilson-Weir though trying to get back past Alan McCain, because McCain went around, of course, and now he's fighting with Adam Wilson-Weir, and just up ahead we see Guthrie and Gillette fighting with each other as well as we go into the back straight here, and that's to the inside for just a moment there from Guthrie. Can he keep his nose in? He certainly does, which means he's going to get the tighter line along this back straight, which does have that kink to the right, so it is going to keep it nice and tight for him as we head up towards the chicane. William Guthrie moves into 5th position. And at the same time that that was happening, Phil McDougall finds himself off the circuit. He does recover, but what has just happened here for Phil McDougall from P number 3? It's a loss on the rear end. Does he keep it out of the barrier? Yes, that barrier dropping back just a little bit extra there. And fortunately for Phil McDougall, he'll be back out, but he is all the way down in P number 10. Now as we head up towards turn number 1, Wilson Weir looking to get up the inside of McCain. McCain touching the rear end of Ross Gillette. There, a big slide from McCain in the corner that he went around in earlier on in the race. And that means that Wilson Weir can now focus his fight on P number 5. But here comes Mark Kent looking to try and get up the inside of Alan McCain. And there's contact behind. And Phil McDougall's bad day goes to worse there. Contact with Lewis Mason as Lewis Mason spun in front of him. And that was just getting collected. And who was that off the circuit? It was Ross Gillette off the circuit there. After his fight with Adam Wilson-Weir. How did that one happen? It's a loss all on his own. Does he keep it out of the barriers? Just about, yes he does. As we come up towards the 9th lap of asking here, and Ben Oucher has decided to just completely ignore what's going on behind him. He's got a 4-second advantage over Jack Pittas. Remember, Pittas spun earlier on in this race. He fell to, what was it, 6th or 7th position, and he has now managed to come back in it, and he's running in 2nd. Now, it's highly unlikely he'll win this one, but with Lee Horn being a further 4 seconds back, it's very likely that he will get 2nd place in this one. As we go have a look at Lewis Mason here, fighting once again with Phil McDougall. Of course, they came together last lap after Mason's spin, and McDougall just collected it into it. What's going to happen up towards the first turn with McDougall on the inside, Mason on the outside. Mason trying to get the speed into the corner to carry that speed on the exit. He has managed to get all over the rear end of Phil McDougall here. We ride on board with Lewis Mason as we come up towards turn number 1, and it's going to be McDougall off the circuit there, and Lewis Mason will move back into P number 9. We look back towards Hernandez and Gillette with this one as we come up through here. As we come in towards turn number 6, I believe this one is. And now we look at Alan McCain in the number 6, in the 6th position in the number 212, is closing up towards Adam Wilson-Weir to try and return into a top 5. Now remember, the top 15 from this race is going to be inverted, and it's the man on dries, Jamie Dorey, who is looking to try and get himself out of that position that is not going to be inverted and potentially get himself a pole position for race number 2, but these conditions are not helping him get past Matt Gatter, but Gatter's spin well, and Jamie Dorey right now with, he is going to be a lap down. We'll have 2 laps to go in this one to try to maintain 15th position. Phil McDougall looking to get past Lewis Mason here to the inside. As we do apologise for the livery that was run on Lewis Mason. It has now been removed. So just that's why it's gone back to a default car skin. So you, just so you know there. Mason slides through the first chicane and will need to try and get himself back up there towards P number 9. Hernandez here on the rear end of Ross Gillette, looking through for 11th place, trying to see if he can make his way up. But right now, he cannot. It's a big side, though, from Ross just in front. And Hernandez will say, I'm going to take full advantage on that one with just 1.5 laps to go. And he moves into P number 11. He can see that P10 fight going on in front of him. Phil McDougall in 9th. Lewis Mason in 10th place right now. And these collection of cars are the ones that are closest together. So we will see what they might be able to do as we watch Lewis Mason chasing down on the rear end of Phil McDougall here as we head up towards the chicane with Mason on the rear end of McDougall once more. Jamie Dorey has gone around again, and in fact he's 15 seconds down. I don't know where he has gone to. Oh, that's coming on at the turn number 6 there. And he will recover on that one, but it does mean he's fallen behind Matt Gatta again. But Gatta now seems to have potentially some issues because the gap between them is 7 seconds. So with the white flag out, it is a fight for pole in race number 2, which sees your top 15 inverted. Dory on the dries, though, will have a difficult time. Really needs Matt Gatta to make some big mistake here. Ben Oucher has been taking it very easy at the front of this field. There's been no reason for him to push. He's just been able to, since he moved into the lead, there was fights going on behind, and he has taken full advantage of all of that. And it means that Ben Oucher will come around the end of the lap here and will win the first of 3 races today. It does mean he'll have to make his way through from 15th position for race number 2. But Ben Oucher comes through the final few corners in the number 504 machine and will win the first race of round number 2 here. Ben Oucher in the 504 machine takes victory. Jack Pittas will come across the line in 2nd position. William Guthrie can't quite catch up to Lee Horn. Lee Horn will take the podium ahead of Guthrie. It will then be Adam Wilson-Weir trying to keep clear of Alan McCain and Mark Kent, and will do so on that chase behind. Joshua Downing will come home in 8th position. It's then the fight behind Mason trying to keep McDougall at bay. That gap is closing, but I don't think it will close enough towards the timing line. It will not. And Mason will stay ahead of McDougall and Hernandez. Ross Gillette comes home in 12th position ahead of Nick Clibbins here, who will come home in 13th place. Matt Gatta across the line in 15th lap down. Jamie Dory will cross the line in 16th position, which means that he will miss out on the invert that will include the rest of the field. The checker flag is out though, and victory for Ben Oucher, who had to work his way through, started 4th on the grid. But Ben Oucher was able to move into the lead after getting caught up in a couple of other issues. He stayed clean though. He just gave up some time, some position. But once he moved his way into the lead, the battles behind just meant that Ben Oucher was able to take that victory nice and easily in the end. And with that being said then, let's have a look at our race results here from the first of 3 races today. Ben Oucher takes victory 2.7 seconds clear of Jack Pittas, who went around early doors. He did recover very well, though, to come home in 2nd place. Lee Horn Lee Horn finished that one in 3rd, with William Guthrie in 4th position. Adam Wilson-Weir taking home a top 5 place ahead of Alan McCain. Mark Kent came home in 7th ahead of Joshua Downing. Lewis Mason in 9th, and it was Phil McDougall who crossed the line in 10th place. We then have a look outside the top 10, and it was Adrian Ruiz Hernandez coming across the line in 11th. Ross Gillette came home in 12th out of Nick Clibbins and Nigel Stock. Matt Gatta will take pole position in the 2nd race of the day with the top 15 inverted. And Jamie Dory just missing out there. He risked it on the dries. It was not the choice to do it. We'll see with race number 2 if he was able to make his way up through the field. Of course, we will see Ben Oucher starting race number 2 from 15th place. With that being said then, I think it's only fair that we do have a word with the man that dominated in all of that in the end. And Ben Oucher coming home to take victory. It was a dominant victory. However, it took a little while for you to find the lead there, Ben. A couple of issues going on around. Talk us through the early stages of that race, because it took a little bit of work to get to the front.
Yeah, I thought I'd managed to make a decent start, and then who was it who spun in front of me? Was it Nick?
It was Jack who spun in front of you.
That's the one. Yeah, Jack spun in front of me, and then I had to avoid him, which let Adam and Phil back through, just through, I guess, and yeah, had to struggle my way back past them. Managed to do it in the end, but both of them were relatively quick, so it was a little difficult, and I think I burnt my tyres up a bit pushing past them, because by the end I was struggling quite badly.
Well, you had the gap that allowed you to stay ahead of Jack by the end of it. But it does mean, though, race number 2, 15th place, you will be starting in the field. There was a lot of carnage going on behind you. If you can avoid it, do you think you can find your way back to the front again?
Yeah, I think so. I seem to be quite quick in these. I very rarely drive them, so I wasn't expecting to be doing this well. But yeah, I think 15th. Did you say that? Yeah, that's not too bad. I can work with that.
Right, well, good luck for race number 2, Ben. We'll see what you're able to do. You moved up 3 positions in that one. You've got to move up 14 if you want a second win. Ben Oucher there, going home in victory for that one. And with that being said as well, we are going to take a short break here from the broadcast as we prepare for race number 2. It was a very great race going on there between the fight. Definitely, we had the fights at the front, the fights in the mid-pack as well. We expect the same in the second race. Another 11 laps of asking in race number 2 before we then get race number 3 with 17 laps. Of course, top 15 are inverted, almost a full field, but it means that Matt Gatter will be starting the second race on pole position. We'll be back in about 5 minutes' time here in the broadcast, so don't go anywhere. If you're watching on the Facebook, make sure you've followed the page, you've hit the like button here on the stream, and you've shared it with your friends or family. If you're watching over on the NXTGEN YouTube channel, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. The GT3 Championship returns this Thursday, so we'll be live on Thursday. And the NXTCC returns next week after a minor break due to the TCR update for the endurance round at Bathurst next Tuesday. So make sure that you are subscribed over there as well. And of course, if you're watching on the unofficial broadcast on Joseph Wright TV, make sure you're hitting the follow, subscribe, everything over there, so that you are notified when we go live, as we have got lots planned throughout this week as well. Right then, we'll be back in 5 minutes, so make sure you don't go anywhere. Just get yourself ready, popcorn, drink, because we'll be back for another thrilling race for race number 2. Don't go anywhere. And we are back here, and welcome once again to Portland, Oregon, as we prepare for the second race of the evening around the wonderful Portland International Raceway. Race number 1 then was won by Ben Oucher, which means that he will be starting the second race of the day from P15. The only man not included in the flip was Jamie Dory, who finished 16th and last. It will be a pole position there for Matt Gatter in this one. He was struggling in race number 1 to get to grips with the wet conditions. It is still damp out there, but drivers are trying a mix of tyres here. Are we going to see another Jamie Dory dry tyre call? Are we going to see it from any more of our drivers out there? It's going to be interesting to see. Adam Wilson-Weir just went out in the warm-up session on dry tyres. His lap time is 7 seconds off with... I think that might have just been a slow getting the tyres up to temperature. We'll see when he comes across the line again, because he is out there right now through the final 3 corners. So we'll see if he's able to improve in this session on the dries, because the dries could be the way to go. Of course, there's a sprinkling of rain like we saw in race number 1, potentially not. But if it stays nice and dry and the sun stays relatively in the sky, it could be interesting. Right, Wilson-Weir's just crossed the line here, and his lap time was only 4 seconds off that time. So he is fighting pace out there on the dries. I don't think at that pace it is worth going on to dry tyres, though, for the start of the race. It's going to be interesting to see what drivers decide to do once we get down onto the grid then. With that being said, warm-up is coming over to a close here for race number 2. We'll get ourselves down onto the circuit for the grid here, and we prepare for this one as we get going for this race. And it will be, as I say, a pole position start here in the invert from Matt Gatter when the whole flip is applied. So with that being said then, let's have a look at our grid then for the second race of the day. And Matt Gatter will start this one on pole position ahead of Nigel Stock, Nick Clibbins from 3rd and Ross Gillette from 4th position. Adrian Hernandez will be from 5th and Phil McDougall in 6th place on that one. Lewis Mason from 7th ahead of Joshua Downing. Mark Kent will start from 9th and Alan McCain in 10th position. Adam Wilson will start in 11th with William Guthrie in 12th place. 13th will be Lee Horn with Jack Pittas starting in 14th. Ben Oucher winning race number 1 will start the invert in 15th place. Jamie Dory will be starting from 16th and last place in this one, with the invert being the top 15. Now then, let's get ourselves prepared for this one with all of our drivers out there and preparing and waiting again. 11 laps will be on the board for this one, just like it was in race number 1. We'll then see the longer race number 2. Race number 3, which will come after this one. That will see a full invert. So if Jamie Dory does end up at the rear end again, he will get pole position in that one. That being said, Dory's not the only driver risking dries. He is back out there on dry tyres. Alan McCain starting 10th place is risking dries. Lee Horn starting 13th is risking dries. And Ben Oucher in 15th is risking dry tyres as well. It is looking a little bit drier out there in this one until we change camera, actually, and then it does look very wet indeed still off on the right-hand side of our screens. Right, 11 laps on the board. We prepared to go racing for race number 2. And we are green and away here with Matt Gatter pulling away from the very front of the field. We go 3 wide straight away, even 4 wide for just a moment. They settle themselves in, though it looks like in the background they're going to try and get in towards turn number 1 in 3 wide formation there for P number 4. Somehow they get themselves all facing the right way, and it was a spin from Mark Kent through the first chicane that sees him falling down the order. This is Alan McCain on the dry tyres, finding pace. The dries are the way to go here. Straight away, If you keep it off the curbing where you can see that spray, now we're in the middle part of the lap. We always knew the beginning part of the lap was drier. How's this going to go now for Alan McCain in the middle part of the lap? He's still looking quick on the dry tyres and is moving his way up the order. This is looking good though for those dry runners, and I think this might be the race where the dry compound tyre comes into play, which will help the 4 drivers out there on them. Adam Wilson-Weir side by side with Lewis Mason here, and they come up towards the chicane. Mason on the outside with Wilson-Weir on the inside. Wilson-Weir backs out of it, and it invites Altua in, and there's contact between the race 1 winner and Adam Wilson-Weir. They find themselves spinning through the chicane. Phil McDougall now looking to try and get the result that he missed out on in race number 1. Side by side with Ross Gillette, he moves to the inside line in the 105 machine and will get the inside to turn number 1. And that's Matt Gatter sitting just ahead of him. Nick Clibbins already 2.5 seconds clear on the opening lap of asking here as Altua has found himself all the way to the back of the field. Alan McCain here is getting swarmed by the wet tyre runners, but those dry tyres do look like they are the better tyre to be on, and that was Nigel Stock finding his way off of the circuit. He recovers though, and Phil McDougall has got past Matt Gatter now, who has Gillette and Hernandez behind him as we come to turn number 6 and onto the back straight. As we watch this fight going on, it is Alan McCain, the next car back, who is going to be trying to chase up, and McCain, the highest of the dry tyre runners. Lee Horn in 10th, Dory in 12th, and it is Ben Altua in 16th position right now, and down towards the back after contact with Adam Wilson, where he then found himself around again. Jamie Dory just went side by side with Jack Pittas, and for a second lap running a Type 2 machine has found themselves facing the wrong way after contact through the chicane. And Dory and Pittas both end towards the back of this one and now need to recover, as the dry tyre runners are just getting a little bit too greedy through the far chicane. They're thinking they've got that's Lewis Mason around. They are just feeling a little bit greedy coming through the far chicane, thinking that they are faster on those dry tyres. However, there's just not enough space for them to go side by side really through there. Hernandez overtakes Matt Gatter there and moves up into 4th as Gatter continues to fall down the order here. He has been able to keep it facing the right way though in the early stages of this race, and should be able to still take home a solid result if that remains the case. William Guthrie looked for a moment to get on the outside of Downing. They went for the switchback, couldn't quite work that out, and Alan McCain now looks to get past Matt Gatter as the dry tyres still working out for the 212 machine. He moves in to a top 5 position. Of course, McCain started this one in 10th. He's only 2 of the 4 dry tyre runners that are not having issues out there. That being said, Lee Horn almost went for the move there as that was a Gatter spin, and he avoids, but Lee Horn has to slam on his brakes, and on the dry tyres will drop down just a little bit there in the chase, but we now move back up towards Alan McCain because McCain is running in 5th, 1 second off of Hernandez here, looking to try and get into 4th place and maybe up onto that podium spot, depending on how much this circuit dries out. Is there potential for McCain to close up and catch his teammate Nick Clibbins, who's running around at the front of this on wet tyres? William Guthrie looks to the inside of Joshua Downing up towards turn number 3. They run side by side here. Guthrie does still have his nose in here, which means Downing is going to have to leave him the door, but it will switch across onto Downing's inside. He runs slightly wide there. A little bit of a nudge to the rear end of William Guthrie. Downing is going to have to hold the outside line. He backs out of it looking for the switchback. William Guthrie gets through on the corner entry, corner exit. He's also got the speed, and he's going to keep Downing at bay for just a moment here, but you can see how close Daniel Downing is all over the rear as Guthrie goes defensive up towards chicane here. Are they going to run side by side with Downing to the right-hand side? No. Downing backs out of it. He's seen the instance they're going in through there. Both of his teammates have gone around for contact through the chicane. He's not going to want to make it a 3 for 3 in the Type 2 racing camp, for instance, at the chicane, and he will have to hold on to 7th position right now. We jump on board with Lewis Mason because he looks back towards Matt Gatter, who has now fallen down to 12th position in this race, just trying to get to grips with these wet condition cars. Mark Kent's the fastest man out there right now, and William Guthrie looking to get past Alan McCain now. McCain on those dry compounder tyres. They work well throughout the first part of the lap. It's a lot wetter on the second half of the lap. That's where McCain starts to struggle, but McCain is able to hold on to 5th place right now, and I'm looking to see if McCain had any issues recently. No, he's looking all good at the moment out there in P number 5, and somehow already we're approaching the halfway mark in this second race of the day, and we will prepare ourselves to race number 3. Of course, 17 laps of running after this one. We had along the back straight here, which kinks slightly to the right, and McCain has closed the gap down to Hernandez for about 0.8 of a second. Hernandez has closed the same gap down to Ross Gillette as well, and Gillette's about 2.2 seconds off of Phil McDougall at the front of this one right now, but it does mean, sorry, it's 2nd place right now, but it does mean that McCain is closing up towards the podium as well on those dry compound tyres. Ben Oucher is having to recover on his dry tyres and is doing so in 14th. Matt Gatter has had an issue here, and it's contact with the recovering Jack Pittas that has put Matt Gatter facing the wrong way, and he's had to sort himself out with that one as McCain goes fastest overall, and that is Lee Horn to the inside of Joshua Downing. Downing's trying to keep it there. Mark Kent just behind, looking to change just his way through, but it does look like it has sorted itself out in that one, with Lee Horn ahead of Downing. Mark Kent then all over the rear end of Joshua Downing, and he's going to be looking ahead and seeing that Downing has been overtaken by McCain, by Guthrie, by Horn, and now can Kent make that overtake too and get his way up towards 8th position? Of course, Kent finished the 1 place higher than Joshua Downing in race number 1. They both started this one in 8th and 9th position, and they maintain 8th and 9th position right now, but I know that Mark Kent will be looking ahead and thinking there could be a way through. That is not what your dry tyre runners would have wanted to see. A sprinkling of rain indicates we'll have some more, and this rather nice circuit for the slick tyre runners of Alan McCain, who's up here in P number 5, along with Lee Horn in 7th. They're not going to like the look of that rain, especially with what will be 5 more laps to go as they come up towards the timing line. And across the timing line they go with a gap of just a few tenths between each of them. McCain will be looking ahead and thinking, what can I do with this one? He looks to the inside of Hernandez here, and Hernandez is going to allow McCain to get that inside line, and he gets the gas up car back onto the racing line. McCain pushes a little wide, and that is now William Guthrie trying to get involved in this one. A little bit of a wobble from Hernandez. Guthrie moves to the right hand side. Is he going to go for the move up the inside? He certainly is. Hernandez leaves that door, backs out of it, likes this position of 6th. He's in a top 10 right now. He doesn't need to fight too hard for that overall position in the end, and he's liking the points that he will get right now. Alan McCain is just 6 tenths off of a podium position finish here on the dry compound of tyres. Lee Horn is at the back of this train of Guthrie, of McCain, sorry, I should say of Gillette, McCain, Guthrie, Hernandez. And then there's Lee Horn just behind, and Horn now looking to try and make his way past Hernandez on these dry compounder tyres. And he does. Will he get the position confirmed before the fast chicane? Yes, he gets back across to the racing line as well. Crucial in the dry tyres that you aren't off of the racing line through the corners. Especially you see that Horn kicking up a lot of water. That's going to make his tyre just a little bit wet there. And it will take a little bit for it to get back into grip again, maybe up to the exit of the first chicane. And that is McCain moving to the right-hand side here. Has a huge amount of speed to Gillette. I think he wanted to make his intentions clear early on. But Gillette closes that door. McCain backs out early as well. Guthrie now to the inside to try and make this position. A slide from Horn behind. Is it going to be 3 wide? No! And fortunately for McCain, Gillette wobbles, moves to the outside, which means McCain is going to have the inside line here. Doesn't fight too hard. Guthrie has it on the outside. He knows he's got something good with the tries. Guthrie, though, goes to the inside of Gillette and moves straight up onto a podium-paying position. And now Lee Horn is behind the other dry tyre runner of McCain. He could do something well with this one. Onto the braking zone as we come through. A little bit of a nudge there. Another nudge as they all concertina themselves up through turn number 6. William Guthrie ahead of this one. Alan McCain then is now under attack from Lee Horn. The 2 dry tyre runners in the midst of wet tyres. They are going to split Ross Gillette and go around the inside and the outside. They'll still be side by side when they come up towards the far chicane. And McCain backs out of it. Lee Horn goes from the back of this train from 7th. He finds his way up to 4th now, and we'll be looking ahead to William Guthrie as well. That was a slide there through the final corner. Trying to figure out who that was from. That was Hernandez who went for a slide through the final corner. McCain making his intentions to the inside early. In fact, I think the dry tyres are doing that because you can see that right-hand side of the circuit is much drier than the left. So I think McCain and Horn are going out there so that they can get the grip under braking that they wouldn't get on the wet compound of tyres. Right, through turn number 3 with McCain on the rear end of Lee Horn. And it is going to be interesting to see if either of these are able to get onto that podium place past William Guthrie, because the dry tyres were a risk for Dory in race number 1. They did not play out. They were, again, a risk, less of a risk in race number 2, but still a risk. But they are playing out here for the dry tyre runners. McDougall looks like he'll confirm 2nd, with Clibbons looking like he will definitely take the win, 5 seconds in the clear on this one. Horn then looks to the left-hand side of William Guthrie. Guthrie has not been backing out of any fight here. McCain pushing Horn on the left-hand side here. Horn goes through, Guthrie settles into the middle of them, but looking for the speed on the exit as Horn goes wide. Guthrie's to the inside of the final corner. There's a little bit of a nudge there. Horn wobbles, but he keeps it ahead, and that crucially gives McCain just a little bit of speed over Guthrie. And the 2 dry tyre runners get past the 46 machine of William Guthrie. And Lee Horn ahead of Alan McCain. That was very late braking there from Guthrie, trying to do something in moving his way back through. He will not be able to, and will have to stay behind for the time being, as Nigel Stock is the man that's found himself right to the rear end of this one behind Ben Oucher. Oucher's had a recent issue that sent him all the way towards Stock, and lost a lot of time with that one in that fight. But what this does mean is that after winning race number 1, Ben Oucher won't get a great result here in race number 2, but the whole field will be inverted for the final 17-lap race of the day, which will mean that at the moment Oucher will start on the front row of the grid alongside Nigel Stock. We look at the middle part of the field here as Nick Clibbins rounds the final turn to head up onto the last lap of asking here in the second of 3 races today. If you are watching and you are about to tune out, do not do that, because we have got the 3rd race still coming after this one, and it is the longest race of the day with a full invert as well. It is always the race that has the most amount of carnage and battles for each individual position. With that being said, drivers come on to the final lap of asking now as Lee Horn proves the dry tyres were the ones to be on in this final race of the day. He's putting in the fastest laps out there. He just didn't start high enough to truly benefit from it, because Lee Horn up to 3rd on these dries. He started this race in 13th position. Lee Horn is up 10 places in this race on those dry compounded tyres, and you could say that if Jamie Dory and Ben Oucher didn't go around at the far chicane with contact, they could potentially be up here as well. But both of them have had further issues as they've been pushing it just a bit too hard in those dries. You've seen that Horner McCain have taken it easy. You can see they are closing and closing this gap down. I just don't think it's going to be enough here to get past Phil McDougall on the last lap of asking, even with the discrepancy in the tyre compound they're using. Nick Clibbins, though, will come through the final 2 corners and will come across the line to take victory in race number 2. Nick Clibbins wins. Lee Horn chasing down Phil McDougall, but McDougall's wet tyres will just hold on long enough to take home P number 2, and Horn will take on the podium. 10 places gained, and actually, with that being said, a double podium for Horn. And then it will be McCain in 4th ahead of Guthrie, and Gillette, Hernandez behind in 7th ahead of Mark Kent. Joshua Downing in 9th position, Jack Pittas in 10th. Adam Wilson-Weir comes home in 11th, and the rest of the field just coming home to take any positions they can. Ben Oucher, race 1 winner. Wayne around on the opening lap of the race, had the race to recover, but continued to have issues and will find himself crossing the line in 15th. Nigel Stock down and out in 16th position, which means he will start the final race of the day from pole position. But it was a victory then, in the end, for your wet tyre runner, Nick Clibbins. He started the race in 3rd place, and he was managed to move it through to the front of the field. And he will find himself in 16th and last for the start of the final race of the day. With that being said then, let's get our race results here around the Portland circuit for race number 2. And it was race victory for Nick Clibbins ahead of Phil McDougall. Lee Horn took a podium. Alan McCain in 4th place. William Guthrie took home 5th ahead of Ross Gillette. Adrian Hernandez in 7th. Mark Kenton 8th. Joshua Downing took home 9th position in the end ahead of Jack Pittas, who obviously found himself facing the wrong way after contact early doors. And it's now been 2 races in which he's had to recover. Adam Wilson-Weir also found himself around as well, contact of course, and he found himself in 11th. Jamie Dory causing some contact down in 12th position. Lewis Mason came home in 13th position in the end ahead of Matt Gatter. Ben Oucher in 15th, and Nigel Stock came home down pit lane, but did finish the race in 16th place. That means Nigel Stock will start this race on first. Our race 1 winner, Ben Oucher, will be alongside him on the front row of the grid. Before we take a break here, though, we are going to see if we can have a quick word with one of our drivers. And in fact, we will go off the back like we did from race number 1, and we'll pull in our race victor from race number 2. Nick Clibbins took advantage of the inverted field, started from 3rd position, moved himself into the lead, and it was what looked like quite a sensible race for you at the front, Nick. It looked quite sensible and easy.
Yeah, it's a bit of redemption from race 1. Race 1 was terrible, jump start off the line. Thought this one I can't jump it, just got to go for it, and yeah, it played off. Well happy with that.
It certainly did. Of course, yep, you had a good qualifying position. It didn't go well for you in race number 1. You learnt the car, though, because you showed the speed in race 2. Race number 3, you're going to be starting on the grid from 16th place. We have seen big movers. Lee Horn was able to move up 10 places in that race. Do you think you'll be able to find your way back towards a top 5, a podium even, in race number 3?
I'll give it a go, see what happens. I don't know what's happening with the weather, so if it's going to be dry, we might gamble with a dry tyre, with changing conditions, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, good luck for race number 3, Nick. Well done for race number 2 victory. And yeah, let's hope you don't jump off the line in the 3rd one as well.
Hope so. Thank you.
Nick Clibbins there going home in victory in the 2nd race of the day. We are going to prepare ourselves for the 3rd and final race here at the Portland circuit. So if you are watching over on the Facebook and you've not done so already, make sure you're following that page if you're watching the NXTGEN YouTube channel as well, because the GT3 Championship season number 9 starts this Thursday, we're going to be going to Mexico for that one, so make sure that you are joining in onto the commentary and the broadcast on Thursday. It's going to be a great one. I'm getting down on track as well, so you can see how badly I am down on track and why I need such a setup for the broadcasting, because this is where I shine. And then, of course, the touring cars will be back next week, the NXTCC, after having an additional break in the middle because of the updates to the touring cars. We'll be back for the Bathurst Endurance round next week. I'm down on track in that one as well, amazingly. But, of course, Paul Walsh will be in the commentary booth for that one. So make sure you are following and subscribing to all the NXTGEN official channels so that you do not miss out on any of those. If you don't want to miss out on any of the broadcasts that we do here on Joseph Wright Broadcasting, then make sure you're following all of the Twitch pages, the Facebook pages, and our socials as well. But we'll be back in about 5 minutes' time for the third 17-lapped race to end this day off. We'll see you in about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back here for the third and final race of the day in the Next Gen Racing's Toyota GR86 Cup here for round number 2 at the Portland International Raceway. 2 11-lap races have been completed. Ben Oucher took home victory in the first race of the day. It was then a victory for Nick Clibbins in race number 2. What that does mean is that race number 3 is going to be a full inverted field. Are we going to see Ben Oucher finish race number 2 in 15th place, starting from P number 2? Will we see him find his way to the front of the field for a second time tonight? Or are we going to see a new driver once again towards the front of the field for this one? Let's find out, as we've only got 2 minutes of this warm-up session left to go, and then we will have 17 laps of action ahead of us around the Portland International Raceway. Of course, 6 additional laps over the first 2 races. It provides more opportunities for drivers to work their way through, and it is, I mean, bone dry is what you can say about the session now. We have had a wet qualifying session, a wet race 1, a mixed condition race 2 that saw the dry tyres working out for a couple of those that went on them. They found their way up towards the front. Lee Horn, of course, finding his way up. Alan McCain finding his way up. Issues for Oucher and Dory on those dries. They fell towards the rear of the field due to contact. However, this final race of the day, not a single wet tyre in sight because there's no puddle, there's no spray, there's nothing. It is a dry as can be race for this one, which means our drivers have now got to relearn the circuit with their braking points and their lines in the dry conditions, which can be a challenge when you have just done 22 racing laps on a circuit that was damp or wet even, and now you've got to learn it again on these dry conditions. We are going to see faster lap times, of course, from our drivers. Let's see what they are able to do behind the wheel of these fabulous Toyota GR86 machines. Of course, updated at the beginning of the 2026 Season 1 campaign, and the changes they made to them, they're a little bit faster, they are more fun to drive. They just are so much more fun to drive. We see them now being, I think the best car to compare it to before was the Mazdas. The Mazda was the car of choice for rookies over the Toyota GR86s. You saw that in production car races, the PCC races, and now you see the Toyota's so much more popular than the Mazdas on the iRacing service when it comes to races like the PCC that requires multi-class and a choice of cars, which means that I do think that ultimately this is the rookie car of choice now. And you can see why. The racing we've had, that's not who we wanted to look at, was it? The racing we've had has just been phenomenal. And yes, you see cars having those contacts. We've seen a couple of cars around, but we've also seen the wheel-to-wheel racing that just allows it to be really, really close. With that being said then, let's talk through the grid on the final race of the day. It's going to be stock starting from pole ahead of Oucher, Gatter from 3rd, Mason from 4th, ahead of Dory, and Wilson Weir. It's then going to be Pittas ahead of Downing, Kent from 9th ahead of Hernandez, Gillette from 11th, and William Guthrie from 12th position. Alan McCain will start this one in 13th ahead of Lee Horn. Phil McDougall in 15th ahead of Nick Clibbins. And Ned Wharton will start from the back of the field as we have the addition of Ned Wharton for this race. Nick Clibbins, race 2 winner, starts on 16th, but we do see Ned Wharton heading down there for this final race of the day. So we do have 17 cars prepared to go out and racing for this one, where we only had 16 in the previous 2. So we'll see what Wharton's able to do in these dry conditions, and he's waited till the dry. Maybe he's just a little bit scared of the rain, I don't know. I think he just wasn't able to get into the earlier sessions, but he is here for the 3rd and final race of the day. Drivers on the grid then and prepared to go racing for what is going to be 17 laps of asking around the Portland International Raceway. located in Oregon, of course. It is Nigel Stock who has pole position in this final race of the day. Race 1 winner Ben Oucher starts alongside, 17 laps on the board. We are green and away. Jamie Dory did not get off the line there and will lose out on the start up towards turn number 1. Oucher immediately getting a fantastic launch and gets into turn number 1, the race leader straight away in this one, and that is Joshua Downing facing the wrong way. It is a pile-up. About 5 cars involved in that one, picking up damage, including Lee Horn, who did a dry tyre masterclass in race number 2. It is now Lewis Mason looking to try and get onto a podium position in this race. He sits in 4th place right now. He looks around the outside of Matt Gatter, but he does have Jack Pittas now looking to his inside, and Pittas takes advantage of Mason's wider line. Mason keeps it tight though through turn number 6, and there's a little bit of a wobble there, contact with Pittas, but they remain side by side, giving each other just enough room there. That contact definitely just a mistake, as Mason had a bit more of a wobble. Pittas gets on through here and will get pushed by Adam Wilson-Weir, his teammate, up towards the chicane. Are they going to settle themselves down single file? It is going to be a safety car after the first lap of asking, but they can race to the line here. Is going to be Mason trying to hold on to this position. It certainly is, as they come through the final turn. The sun starting to set there. They can race to the line, but it looks like it will be all settled down, and Lee Horn is the reason for the safety car here in the 3rd and final race of the day. He has got some major damage off of the opening lap of asking here as he comes around the final turn, and yeah, that rear left suspension completely damaged on Lee Horn. Right then, let's watch this opening lap of asking again, because this is where it all went wrong. It was Joshua Downing here, contact from behind from Mark Kent, sent Downing spinning. It was then over the curbing there for Hernandez trying to gain it. Dory just goes tight enough to miss it. Horn has nowhere to go, collects into it, and I believe that was also Nick Clibbins involved. It was Nick Clibbins involved in that one as well, which is a shame for him because, of course, we talked about his race 2 victory. He was looking to try and move up the order in race number 3. This is what it looked like on board of Nick Clibbins there. The spin, he can see the spin, the smoke, and suddenly there's a car just parked sideways. And I think that's the harder thing, is the car was parked sideways. You can see the smoke. You're just not expecting a car to be facing that direction. And we'll go have a look at Lee Horn here, because Horn picked up some major damage of that one when he came into this incident. There's the incident going on. He has nowhere to go and is straight into the back of it. Was he then caught up into another incident? No, it just says that he caught them. No, that was where he got that rear suspension damage, which is a shame for Horn, of course. Having to deal with that damage. Yeah, you can see that rear left is already pulled out. It means he was just running very, very slow around the lap, which is why the safety car has been called out in this one. And we will see Lee Horn coming through the back end of the lap, and with all of that damage to boot as well. So we will go back live here and we will see what is going on with this one. William Guthrie moving past Hernandez, because under the pit stop, under the safety car here, Hernandez has come down pit lane. And we'll look at fixing his car. Of course, drivers do get one quick repair in these events. If you're unfamiliar with iRacing, what that basically means is drivers can come down pit lane and their car will be instantly fixed instead of having to sit and wait for repairs to be done. Of course, if you remember to uncheck fuel, uncheck tyres, it means, like Hernandez, you don't lose too much time down pit lane, and therefore under the safety car, you can get yourself back onto the rear end. Drivers do only get one of those though, so if Hernandez manages to pick up some more damage later in the race, he will have to sit there and wait for his car to be fully repaired, or at least the required repairs to be completed before he is able to get back out again. as everyone is running around chasing down the pace truck. The lights are off on the top of the pace truck, which means that we will see it coming down at the end of this lap, and Ben Oucher will be the man starting this one from the front of the field of drivers for what will be, after the restart, 14 laps of asking. I have to do maths manually on the top of my head. That's not going to be a good idea, but 14 laps of asking will be ready to go after this one, so still longer than our race 1 event. And as we will be going on a rolling start, single file for our drivers, it means we shouldn't see another incident like we did on lap number 1. Of course, it has to be fair, that's the biggest incident we've had all evening. It's the first time race number 1 has caused, lap number 1 at NXTGEN has caused a pile-up. Of course, we have seen a car go round in all 3 races. Normally, they wash off to the right-hand side of the track and up towards that barrier. However, in this case, it just didn't wash out of the way, and it meant more and more cars were getting collected in that one, leading to damage for Lee Horn. He's down in 16th, not the last out there, because Hernandez also decided to come down pit lane the following lap, which is why he has fallen a lap down. Right, we are going to get ourselves underway again here for the final race of the day. It'll be Ben Oucher who decides when to go, and we are going and up towards the racing line. Of course, they can't overtake before the timing line. However, they can race towards that timing line, and the acceleration at the final corner was key for Oucher to keep it ahead of Nigel Stock here and up towards turn number 1 and 2, and managed to do that as we go in towards the first chicane. A little bit of a wobble there for Ned Wharton, start at the back of this field, of course, stepping into the car for the final race of the day. Hans managed to make his way up to 9th and getting past Alan McCain on the restart there, as well as we now watch William Guthrie, who's had a bit of a mixed bag racing himself. We've seen him fighting up towards the front of the field though, and he's looking to get up the inside of Mark Kent to get himself back towards the front of this field. He can't quite do it at the moment though, and will sit behind as we head up towards the end of the lap, as that's Alan McCain trying to get past Ned Wharton. Wharton passes it on the apex there. McCain goes into the back of him, doesn't quite make his way through, and with that being said, Ned Wharton is your biggest gainer of the evening so far, up 8 spaces in the opening few laps. Remember, 2 of those were under safety car conditions. Phil McDougall here looks to go up the inside of Alan McCain into chicane. He backs out of it. We saw a number of incidents in race number 2 from drivers trying to do that. McDougall does not want to find himself facing the wrong way, looking to try and get himself back into a top 10. Obviously, the first lap accident did not help out drivers such as Nick Clibbins, but Clibbins did come down pit lane and has now got going again with a fixed car, and we look to see what he can do from recovering in this 14th place. Well, Jamie Dory goes to the inside of Ross Gillette there through the chicane, and now Lewis Mason is side by side with Adam Wilson-Weir. Jack Pittas looking to go on the outside of Matt Gatter up ahead. Mason looked to the inside of Wilson-Weir, couldn't quite do it. Pittas switches over with Gatter and makes that move. Wilson-Weir on the outside of Lewis Mason here. It will go to the inside line for Wilson-Weir and does make the overtake through that one as we come through. And the question, did Oucher hit the wall under the safety car? I've got nothing popped up saying that he did. However, I've also got nothing popped up saying that he didn't. So I cannot confirm or deny that one. Jamie Dory here looking to try and get past Lewis Mason, as Mason was slow onto the back straight there. Dory up into 6th place now. Is he going to try and hold it on the outside yet? Because Mason backs out of it as McCain goes side by side with Ross Gillette, and here comes Ned Wharton. It's 3 wide into the final turn. That was never going to work out, and a huge hit into the wall for Alan McCain, who has to try and get his car back going again. Major damage for McCain. He'll find himself into pit wall. Kent now to the inside of Phil McDougall up towards turn number 1. Makes that move, and Joshua Downing tries to get to the inside of Ned Wharton. There's contact ahead. That was McCain and Kent. Sorry, Clibbins and Kent. So Clibbins has just fallen back down the order in that one, as a lot just happened there. Right, this was the 3 wide moment. Contact And then a big hit from McCain into the wall in that one. We then saw this. Oh, it was contact up ahead, actually. It was the 94 that was spun, and Clibbins just went into it. And it's the second time this race that Clibbins has found himself driving into a car facing the wrong direction at turn number 1. Wilson Weir goes to the inside of Matt Gatter and will try to keep it side by side. He does. There's just enough room between them. Gatter runs slightly wide, then Wilson Weir runs slightly wide. Dory sits behind them thinking, who's going to stay on the racing track? Because it's neither of you, but they both end up facing the right direction with no contact, giving each other enough racing room. Jamie Dory here pushing Matt Gatter on the outside, as that is Pittas looking to get up the inside of Stock just up ahead. Pittas does do it as Gatter holds on ahead of Wilson Weir, but he's going to take a lot of sausage curb there, and it's going to be almost 3 wide. Is it going to be 3 wide? Dory tries to go to the left-hand side of Matt Gatter there. There's just not enough room. Dory will have to stay behind, but Adam Wilson Weir makes his way up into 4th position. Lewis Mason chasing down just behind here on Jamie Dory, and through turn number 4, sorry, I should say. No, 5, I should say. I'll get my racing numbers there eventually. Into turn number 6, Lewis Mason at the back of this train now. Nigel Stock is looking to try and get himself back into 2nd. Ben Oucher taking full advantage, like he did in race number 1, of the battling going on behind, to just be pulling out at the front of this one. Stock looked to the inside of Pittas, too far back to really do anything, just trying to make himself known in Jack Pittas's mirrors, of course. But Pittas is trying to open that gap up, which he is doing rather decently as well. Clibbins and Wharton are going to go side by side into the chicane. They give each other perfect amount of room. Wharton will have the inside into the hairpin, but it will be a switch across for Nick Clibbins here, who will try to get 14th place up towards turn number 1. 7 laps down, 10 to go here around the Portland circuit, up towards turn number 1. And Clibbins is going to have the inside to Ned Wharton. And again, just enough room between them, bouncing over the sausage curb, but they still remain side by side. But Nick Clibbins makes his way through. Can he close the door as we come up towards turn number 3? Yes, but Wharton was trying to just tuck a little bit further towards the inside there. Couldn't quite do it in that fight as we watch Jamie Dory here, because he sits just behind Matt Gatter, and ahead of Gatter is Adam Wilson Weir. So Dory is going to try and get past Gatter just up ahead of him and see if he can then catch up towards the leading 4 cars in this race. Looking for a top 5 right now with Jamie Dory all over the rear end, as Nick Clibbins has had another issue on this lap, and he goes around yet again. So we'll have to have a little look at Clibbins' last lap as Dory gets over the rear end. This is what happened to Nick Clibbins, and it's the same as what we've seen quite frequently. Wharton just about missing that one. He moved to the right, but then something has happened to Wharton, because as we go to live pictures, Wharton is gone from my timing screen. So Ned Wharton has disappeared from my timing screen. I think we may have lost him as Hernandez tries to get to the inside of Ross Gillette. He will have to then hold it on the outside line, but Hernandez does keep into 10th position right now as Jamie Dory over the rear end of Hernandez's teammate Matt Gatter in their fight as well for 5th position. Different racing lines going from the 2 of them in the first few corners of this lap as we head up towards the back straight here. Dory sitting all over the rear end of Matt Gatter, and this is William Guthrie now on the rear end of Gillette, and Hernandez seeing that fight for a top 10 in front of him. He is going to be pushing on to try and see if he can get himself into a top 5 position. Matt Gatter all over the rear end of Jamie Dory here as we head up towards the chicane. He moves to the left-hand side again, just trying to put his car into the mirrors there, but Dory has passed Gatter and made that move, and this is how that one occurred when we jumped down to the fight before. Whoa! Gatter having a bit of issues there, wobbled the car, went over the grass and lost a lot of time for Dory to then make that move through. William Guthrie is not looking to have as an easy pass as Jamie Dory did. He looks to the inside of Ross Gillette up towards turn number 1 in the battle for 11th. Guthrie gets the inside. Gillette doesn't fight it too hard. He allows the 46 to go through, and that is Lewis Mason off at the chicane, which means Guthrie finds his way into a top 10. With Gillette moving back into 11th, Lewis Mason down, and it looks like a self-spin. It is just a bit too much curbing, loss of the rear end, and he quickly gets the 991 machine out of the way of the chasing pack. Adam Wilson-Weir is chasing on to Nigel Stock right now, looking to try and get into a podium-paying position. Up towards the chicane here, it is a toe, 0.2 of a second. It is closing, it is closing. Wilson-Weir will not be able to make the overtake this lap, but he is certainly close enough that he could challenge Nigel Stock up towards turn number 1. He needs to get a good run through the final hairpin though, and that's exactly what he has got. A nice run out of the final turn from Wilson-Weir. And again, the gap between himself and Stock just coming down here. Pittas is down to 2 seconds behind Oucher here, so he is still trying to catch up to the race lead. Wilson-Weir looks the inside of Stock, but then backs out of it. Doesn't go for the move to the inside. Is he just thinking he didn't quite have enough overlap there to confidently make that overtake? Ned Wharton is out of this race. I think there was potential connection issues for Wharton, because I'm looking and I cannot see anything pop up on my screen saying that Wharton had an accident. It just shows me here. No, that's just literally, it's just the first lap of the race that shows me anything for Wharton. So I think it was just a disconnect for him in all of that. Joshua Downing here looking to get up the inside of Lewis Mason. Downing trying to recover after the first lap issue for him. And is side by side with Mason. Mason keeps the inside line though, and will hold on to 12th position for now, but it is going to be a switch across from Joshua Downing, and he does place his car on the right hand side, and he will have that inside line here to Lewis Mason, and he will take 12th position. Lewis Mason now down to 13th place here as we come up to 6 laps to go. Mason moves his car to the inside, say, hey, I'm here, can I come through? But also no doing just there. Adam Wilson-Weir though looking to try and get past Nigel Stock, and does move to the inside all the way to the wall. In fact, will stick it to the inside this time. Stock goes a little bit heavier on the braking there and gives position to Adam Wilson-Weir. Ben Oucher putting in the fastest lap. Last lap goes 0.3 of a second quicker than Jack Pittas. It looks like he has saved his tyres a little bit more than he did in race number 1. If you remember, race number 1 was Ben Oucher leading with Jack Pittas in second, and Pittas was able to close what was a 4-second advantage down to 2 seconds. But as we spoke to Ben Oucher after race number 1, he said that during his fight to take the lead in that race, he just burned up his tyres a little bit too much, and they were going away at the end of this race. A longer race, of course, in this one. However, Oucher didn't really have to fight for the race lead. He got the lead straight away through turn number 1 on the opening lap of the race. Before turn 1, his launch was fantastic. And then he was just able to pull his way ahead on the restart as well. However, on this lap, Pittas has been able to flip it on its head, and after losing out 0.3 of a second, he has just gone faster on this lap, that is for sure. But how much faster is the question I'm now going to ask here as they come across the timing line. And on the last lap of asking, it was 2.5 tenths quicker for Jack Pittas over Ben Oucher. So they're at the moment exchanging lap times. We'll see if Pittas is able to close up that 2 seconds in the next 5 laps of asking. This is Hernandez on the rear end of William Guthrie, and that's because Guthrie passed Hernandez at the start of the previous lap, and that's how this one occurred. And Hernandez ran deep through the chicane off the circuit, and William Guthrie was able to find his way nice and easily through, but Hernandez looking to try and get back up to 9th. He's holding onto a top 10 position right now though. And it's looking like some big gainers again in this race, with Lee Horn gaining 10 positions in race number 1. He is up 7 positions this time. He's taken a double podium is now in 7th position in this one, a great result. And after 2 really poor races for Jamie Dory, a last position and then what I think was about a 13th position for him in race number 2, Jamie Dory now finds himself in 5th position in this last race of the day and taking full advantage of the invert and hoping to get a top 5 at the end of this one. Once again, Hernandez making himself big in Guthrie's mirrors there all over the rear end, but not able to do anything with it at the moment. We ride on the aboard the rear wing of William Guthrie, and we stare back at Adrian Hernandez chasing down behind, and as you can see, Hernandez has got that toe, looks towards the inside here. Is Hernandez going to do it? No, he brakes earlier. It is a bit too far back to try and make that move. You can see how much you can cut that first chicane though. You can go all the way up to the wall, and that was Ross Gillette spinning in the background there and going around at turn number 1 and facing the wrong way, and this is how that's happened for Gillette. He's already got a little bit loose on the rear end through the right-hander and then just through that left-hander, getting that sausage curve that we've seen so frequently. Just getting a bit too much of that inside curbing and it just unsettling the car on the exit. It means Gillette falls down to 14th position in this race. Adrian Hernandez, though, still all over the rear end of William Guthrie for a potential 9th position, as Ben Oucher is going to come up towards the 3rd to last lap in the race. The gap at the lead is down to 1.6 seconds. It's going to be side by side though. Hernandez to the inside of Guthrie. Guthrie runs onto the grass, give Hernandez space, and Hernandez makes the move back up into P9, and now Guthrie is going to be under attack from Joshua Downing in their fight. But yes, the gap at the front here down to 1.6 seconds. Pittas is putting in the lap times. Oucher is just trying to keep the times quick enough to stay ahead of the Welshman behind. As we have a look now at Joshua Downing once more, because he got onto the rear end of William Guthrie after Guthrie ran off the circuit, but Guthrie now trying to catch up to Hernandez once more in this one to see if he can move back into P number 9. And is he going to try it in a similar way that Hernandez did it by putting up the inside into the final chicane? It definitely scared Guthrie out of it, and I think in Guthrie's mind, which would be the same as my mind as well, it's I'll run onto the track and just give him this position, or risk us both crashing and falling down. Let's just give up the position. Phil McDougall here on the rear end of Lee Horn, and Jamie Dory looks to get past Nigel Stock through the chicane. He will have to wait behind as they come into the final corner as well, as Lee Horn stays ahead of Phil McDougall for now. McDougall is the fastest man out there in P number 8, and Dory side by side with Stock out of the final turn. He is officially ahead, but they are close enough right now for us to just be thinking about how turn number 1's going to turn out. Jamie Dory does get the inside and will move into P number 4 here, and Nigel Stock moves down to 5th position as we come out of the first chicane. Adrian Hernandez, though, side by side with William Guthrie. As Guthrie goes for that position, he wobbles and off the circuit. And here comes Joshua Downing to take full advantage of that one. And Joshua Downing moves from 11th into 9th position, but he does have Hernandez to the inside right now. Hernandez trying to maintain 9th place in this one. And we get through, and it is going to be a swap over for Hernandez. Hernandez is going to move through, as that was William Guthrie pushing too hard in the background. But Hernandez holds on to 9th place right now, ahead of Joshua Downing, who now be looking to try and make his way into 9th place. He's made his way onto a top 10 position. He's to the inside here. Is it going to be side by side? Into the chicane, it is. Hernandez backs out of it though. He's going for the speed on the exit. He swaps to the right hand side. The white flag is out as our drivers come up towards their final lap of asking. Joshua Downing holds on to 9th position ahead of Hernandez. We head up towards turn number 1 right now, but it is the 67 machine ahead of the 19 machine. to the inside, looks Hernandez, and he goes for it. It's going to be contact with the wall though, and there will be major damage. He loses his front bumper, but the car is still working. Hernandez will lose speed here. We'll have William Guthrie to his inside. Guthrie moves into a top 10 position. Mark Kent moves into 11th. Hernandez falls down to 12th. That damage, it won't take him out of the race, but it will take him out of the fight. But Ben Oucher, winning race number 1, had issues on dry tyres in race number 2, but will come round the final turn to take victory in the 3rd race. Ben Oucher takes 2 victories in one evening and will win race number 3, and Pittas gets a second place of the evening. A drag race to the line, but Jamie Dory will miss out. Adam Wilson-Weir takes the final podium position. The fight for 9th goes on up towards the timing line. Downing just keeps it ahead of Guthrie. Guthrie will keep it just ahead of Kent as they come across the line, 9th, 10th and 11th. And with damage, Hernandez will recover for 12th position. And at the very end, Nick Clibbins gets past Lewis Mason here. How did that one occur? Into the final turn. Mason ran way too deep. And Clibbins got the inside, and then there's contact between the two of them. Ooh. That was Mason trying not to give the line up to Clibbins there. We'll have a look at on board. He runs deep, of course, into the final turn here from Lewis Mason. Onto the glass, he swings across the right, trying to close the door. That was Clibbins trying to move across, and look at that, just a big old shove from Clibbins as well. I think that's an interesting one out of that one, but we will end the race there after 17 laps of racing action. As yeah, that's not on there. I know it's after the checkered, but that is not on at all between Lewis Mason and Nick Clibbins. And you can see Mason has got some broken car from that one as well. But taking the double in this one was Ben Oucher, who was able to take race win at race win number 3. And of course, it was race win at number 2 for Nick Clibbins in the middle of all of that. With that being said then, let's have a look at our race results from the 3rd and final race of the day. It was Ben Oucher taking victory ahead of Jack Pittas once more. Adam Wilson-Weir takes the 3rd place spot and the final podium position. Jamie Dory comes home in 4th ahead of Nigel Stock, Matt Gatter and Lee Horn. Phil McDougall in 8th position ahead of Joshua Downing and William Guthrie. We then had Mark Kent in 11th, Adrian Hernandez in 12th position, and Nick Clibbins in 13th. Lewis Mason took home 14th, and Ross Gillette, Alan McCain in 16th place. And Ned Wharton, after stepping into the final race of the day, had some connection issues and dropped out for the final 9 laps of asking. With that being said then, what an evening of racing it has been, and I think that we will talk to we talked to the race winners in race 1 and 2. I think we need to talk to the best of the rest here, because in race number 1 and race number 2, it was Jack Pittas who just couldn't make it up towards Ben Oucher. Pittas, you found yourself around in race number 1. You managed to recover back to 2nd place. You had another chance at it in race number 3, but the win just wasn't on the cards today.
Yeah. Being totally honest, I didn't do like a single lap. Well, no, I did basically no laps of practice. So the fact that I had the pace honestly shocked me. But yeah, Ben's extremely quick. So basically the only way I could have overtaken him would have been if he made a mistake, to be honest.
Well, you had some strong pace, as you say, even without any practice as well. That's really great to see that amount of pace out there. However, what it does mean is you've got 2 second places out of that, some strong points on the board. Of course, this season being 7 rounds means that every single point does count. We've got a great calendar lined up ahead of us. So how are you feeling for the rest of the championship in these brilliant Toyotas?
Be totally honest, as long as I'm having fun, I don't care how I do. And I'm more than having fun at the minute. I highly recommend this league to anyone who wants to join. Next race is Mugello, isn't it?
Yes, it is the short Mugello circuit.
Oh, right. That's not really what I know too well. I have driven it before, but that was in GTs, so there's a bit of a difference.
Certainly is. We also cut through, when we come down the big drop, instead of going to the left, we cut through to the right and go straight onto the timing line. It makes it a very quick lap time indeed. And a lot of switch across, left to the right, which we know can be great fun in these Toyotas. We've seen some great battles. You say you're having a lot of fun out there. It is wheel-to-wheel action, and that's what's great about these cars. You can have those a bit of nose rubbing out there. How are the changeable conditions for you today? Because it's the first time we've got these cars out in the wet.
To be honest, don't mind the wet. It's just a bit awkward in these cars, because obviously you've got no TC. So under braking, if you're on the painted line or a curb, you're just gone, which probably... Did you get that on the stream?
So hopefully dry for Mugello then when we move forward. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for that one, of course. Well done on your strong results, Jack, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you as a race winner at some point in one of these races as well. But of course, you're out there having fun, and that's what it's all about.
All right, thank you.
Jack Pittas there, coming home in second place in race 1 and race 3, behind Ben Outra in both of those ones. What a great evening of racing around the Portland International Raceway, though, and we will be back, as we mentioned with Jack there, in 2 weeks' time at the short Mugello circuit on March 31st, so make sure that you do not miss it. We are also going to be back on NXTGEN Racing this Thursday. The GT3 Championship returns for season number 9. We head out to Mexico, and the NXTCC, after taking a slightly extended break due to the TCR updates, will be back out again next Tuesday for Bathurst. So make sure that you are subscribed to the NXTGEN YouTube page and the Facebook page you are following as well. And of course, if you're watching on the Joseph Wright broadcasting channels on our unofficial streams, then make sure you're hitting the follows and subscribes and all that sort of stuff over there so that you're notified when we go live. We've got a lot of broadcasts coming your way with our 3rd super weekend of the year coming up. 6 broadcasts within 3 days, so make sure that you are following us over on the Joseph Wright broadcasting channels as well. Right then, it is goodbye from us here at NXTGEN Racing and Joseph Wright Broadcasting. It's been a fantastic evening of racing, as it always is in these Toyotas, and I'm hoping for the next one I'll finally have my full voice back again, because it's been a couple of weeks now where I've just not had it on a Tuesday, so I'm hoping in 2 weeks' time we'll be good to go. We will be back then in 2 weeks for Mugello. I hope you guys have an awesome time racing yourself or doing whatever it is that you like to do. The GT3s are back on Thursday. The NXTCCs are back next Tuesday. And the GR86s will be back on track in 2 weeks' time. So until then, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.